Welcome to MMT Chats. This episode is brought to you by ISCAR with new ideas for machining intelligently.
Hey, MMT followers, Christina Fuges with MoldMaking Technology, and my guest on today's MMT Chat is Hillary Thomas of Westminster Tool. Hillary is one of MMT's 30 under 30 honorees. Hi, Hillary.
Hi.
So first I have to say congratulations. And how does it feel to be not just nominated, but you were actually selected of one of our 30, and we got more than 30 submissions. So how does it make you feel?
Yeah, I feel really honored. I think it's really special. Just rejoining the industry almost 4 years ago now. It's awesome. And then being 29, it's also awesome because just made the cut.
You did. So why don't you
Yeah.
explain what's your current position right now? Like, what do you do all day?
Yeah, so I think I'm in a transition period. So for the most part, I was leading most of our sales and marketing efforts for a while, and then working with the sales and engineering team. Presently, I'm shifting, kind of preparing the team to continue without me and moving more into a leadership role and kind of taking on some of my father's duties as the owner.
All right. So I want to give viewers a little sense of who you are and how you got to where you are today, because everybody that was nominated comes from all different backgrounds. It's kind of energizing to see you don't have to start off a certain way to get to where you are today. So why don't you talk a little bit about, what you were like as a kid and your education and just kind of like your journey to Westminster?
Yeah, so my dad started this company in our basement when I was about, 5 or 6 years old. So I kind of have just grown up knowing the scent of metal chips. So that was, I would say, in our basement. And then just growing up throughout my whole childhood, I've always been in the business. I will say now coming back as an adult, I didn't appreciate or understand nearly as much as I do now about what was happening. But yeah, I did things like, every time that we moved locations, painting, filing, once I could drive, doing deliveries. In high school, I worked doing electrode mounting, so on one of the grinding machines. And for the most part, if I'm being completely honest, it was just what you did in the family. It wasn't like an interest. It was just kind of how you paid your dues in the family. That's what you did. Which looking back now, I'm grateful, I didn't have to get a job at Dunkin' Donuts or something. I always had some way to earn money.
Right.
But yeah, so once I got into high school, my dad started kind of exposing me to what I could do with myself. I've always been a nerd, loved school. Didn't go to summer camps for outdoor things, was looking for masked summer camps. So kind of exposed me to what business would look like, and I kind of started working under the sales guys here, and I realized, I think I want to go into business. So I studied international business. While doing that, I helped our company establish a partnership with a Chinese vendor, which was an awesome project to be able to do at 18, which included a trip to Shenzhen. And that's when I kind of realized I really love international business. And so continued to studied abroad in Spain for 6 months, worked there. And when it came time to graduate, I realized I really wanted an opportunity to continue living and working abroad. So my dad couldn't really offer me that. So that was the point that we parted ways. And I did take a job where I started off working in the U.S., locally in New England, then relocated to Texas, and eventually was relocated to Australia for 2 years.
That's right.
Absolutely loved it, but just kind of was burnt out from, I guess you could call, corporate lifestyle of it's just a number, and this is your task, go and get it done. Not really having a voice, not really having a place where everybody had each other's backs, and so I was kind of at a point in my career where I was like, I want to see what else is out there. And my dad said, come check out the company. And I was like, okay, sure. And while I had been gone, most people have heard about Westminster Tool cultural transformation. I cannot take any credit for that because I just swooped in after all the hard work had been done and was like, this is awesome. I get to work with my family, do what I love, which was sales and marketing, but I also get to work for a place where everybody respects each other, everybody is accountable, everybody has a voice. So that's when I rejoined here in 2017. And yeah, I had already worked my way through the whole company, but learned some quoting, did marketing, what I was comfortable with, but have kind of been growing way outside of my comfort zone and my knowledge levels ever since.
That is so cool. When you think about mold making, or traditionally, it's more of that craft, and maybe a science nowadays, but you brought the whole business element to your family's business. And that is priceless with all that experience. But with that in mind, so when you get to Westminster in 2017 and you're kind of immersing yourself in it at this point, was there something, like there's a lot of preconceived notions about mold making to begin with, right? So you have that unique background. So when you finally got there, was there something you were thinking about your business, the business, and then when you were in there for a while, you're like, oh my God, it's not like that at all?
Yeah, I think, well, for starters, I just had kind of always stayed surface level with how the business functioned. And then I also, just from my experience coming from corporate, thought that businesses all ran the same. Mm-hmm. And so seeing the different approaches to kind of everything from HR to, the rules and the regulations are the same, but your approaches can be different. But in terms of the company themselves, just the technology, like I knew we made molds, and I was like, we make molds for things.
Yeah.
But getting to see some of the diagnostic and surgical devices and all this curiosity that I didn't really have before. But when I rejoined, I just had this new passion for like, what are these things that we're making? Where do they go to? And then my eyes were just open to walking through the supermarket and being like, we've done a cap like that. We've done a cap like that. Those types of things that I just knew we cut steel.
You do more than that.
For EDM, like I totally did not understand the EDM process until I came back.
That's so cool. All right. So from 2017 till now, in your role, what has been your number one challenge?
So I think one of the things that I'm really striving for is creating the next chapter of the business. So my dad has built this from the ground up, which is amazing. But at some point, he is going to walk away. Hopefully not too soon, but some point. So I think that our company has kind of outgrown that 25-person small business company. We're not quite a 100-person company, but we really need to merge where we maintain our culture, but we still apply some of those strategic operational systems that a larger company would have. That includes, like a middle management and upper management. Management historically was my dad. And then, the people who helped him start the business and who have risen up with him. But there wasn't concrete, divisions of responsibilities. And how about coaching? And we have all these young kids now who have awesome career futures ahead of them. How are we going to invest in making sure that they're getting the best out of it? And how do we ensure that when somebody does step away, nothing is impacted? So we have all these foundations, but we're kind of beyond just experts and apprentices and a manager, and we need to evolve to the next thing. So that has been my challenge of figuring out how to get there while honoring the integrity of the culture that we have.
Got it. What is the best part of your job?
Ooh, I have to say one of the best parts of my job is working with my family. Like, I'm just so lucky, and I feel extremely blessed that we all get along. And we're just talking about it. My husband's family lives in other states, and so we see them maybe once or twice a year. We see my family every day, and then in addition to seeing everybody every day, sometimes we hang out. So
that's pretty unique.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite parts. But if I took that away, I think it's just the concept of working with people who care. Like, after working in a company where there's people who just show up to get their paycheck, I just never want to lose that feeling of coming to work and just knowing that every single person here is here because they want something greater for the company, for themselves, for something other than just a job.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that is something that's pretty common within this mold making community. There's a lot of passion there for what they do when there's a full understanding, kind of what you said earlier, when even the young ones coming in really understand what they're making. You know, the tool or the mold they're making and what that makes is so meaningful. And if, I don't know, COVID put a spotlight on this industry in terms of how important, right? How essential mold building is in the US. So I think that meaning and that passion is pretty common across the community, I would say. So
Yeah.
when you think about all the different projects that you've worked on, is there one in particular that's, pretty notable? And what was your why? Why was it the most interesting or most challenging? And what was your role within that project?
Yeah, so it actually, one of the most, there's kind of two. So one project I wasn't really actually intimately involved with, one of my colleagues managed, but it was a very difficult, it was a fluid path component, and it had the most difficult actions and tolerances and shutoffs, and just to see, I mean, when you are in a hospital and you see one of these, you don't look at it and see all that goes on behind the scenes to get it to you. And so it's just been, and I mean, this is a multi-year project in the making to make this thing successful. And that just really opened my eyes to how important it is what we do and how it's just not straightforward. Just like not anybody could just do it. A project that I personally really enjoyed working on was one that the first project I ever managed and was actually intimate with it from start to finish. And during our DSM phase, we were able to identify that the gate system that they wanted to use was going to result in some warp. And so we suggested an alternative. And it ended up providing met FAI right off the bat. So it was just really awesome I've known all these things that we do, but to watch it come to life in front of me and actually work. And we did first off, and they, did their FAI, and they're like, yes, it works. Thank goodness. Had we not, it would have cost thousands of dollars and weeks to completely change the gating system.
Yep. That is satisfying, right? When a direct impact of something that and applied. Satisfying.
Yep.
So when you look at the shop, and I know you've recently invested in a lot of technology, but mold making in general uses tons of technology. What is like the sexiest piece of equipment, or what gets you, like what's the most exciting, whether you've used it or you've just see it within the shop?
So in our shop, we have a new 5-axis machine, and watching it put some angles on and just with a single setup and just watching everything there move is awesome. And that just to me is like money, 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 because we don't have to take it out and set it up again.
Exactly. Money, money, money. I love that.
So that was, like I see dollar signs. But we've also been working with a new 3D printing technology called Mantle. That is awesome because the industry is changing and they're going to get there. Right now, metal additive isn't replacing, but it is getting there. And it is so cool to be a part of watching it happen, especially with what you can do with conformal cooling.
Yep. That's the added benefit, right? Right to I spoke about that recently to somebody else saying, I mean, that's the benefit where those machine tool companies or the technology companies that are selling that to you, in order for you to help your own customer too, like your benefit, it's such a huge benefit and not so much a threat. It's getting over that traditional thinking that I think is still the challenge overall, believe it or not, that don't look at it as some kind of competitive force coming at you. It's just another tool in the toolbox.
Right. Yep. It's the cost and time savings and the expansion of types of projects that we can take on and solve is just awesome.
It's awesome. And it makes you stand out. Okay, let's segue to workforce, because I know that's something that is near and dear to your heart. A big topic when it comes to the next generation and what I call the seasoned professionals. You hear the word mentoring a lot. And I'm learning that everybody defines that differently. So what is your definition, whether you're being mentored or you're mentoring someone? How do you define mentoring?
Yeah, so I think a mentor is somebody who has solely your best interest in mind, who has experience and knowledge that they can share in order for you to get where you want to go in life. So kind of like a compass. So for me, it's really important. I mean, you can have mentors of all facets, but for me, the best type of mentors are ones who have no stake in any other component of my life and who can unbiasedly kind of steer me in directions that are best for my own best interest.
That's a good one. Actually, no one has said that, and that you're right. I think that's really important because you don't want some other segment of your life getting impacted just because that person is helping you with other aspects of your life. Good point. Good point. All right. So let's think about this next generation coming in and all the young adults that you and your colleagues that you've seen come in. What is the number one skill set, quality, personality trait that you think somebody coming into mold manufacturing needs to be successful?
Oh, I have to say work ethic. So I think that in today's day and age, there are a lot of jobs where you can work from home at your own pace and, kind of at your own rhythm, and be pretty successful. This industry isn't one of them. With manufacturing, you have to be there. Things don't run without you. If you are willing to embrace the mindset of how do I make this machine run for me, then you will get there. But it's just not a given. And like it or not, a lot of places are smaller companies. There's not somebody for everything, so we have to flex and sometimes wear extra hats and have some stress and work extra hours. And I think that's just one thing of just not expecting bare minimum.
Got it. Work ethic. I like that one. So when you are thinking about mold manufacturing and attracting the next generation, what in particular do you think has to change to get more middle school, high school, people coming out of college to come in to manufacturing in general or specifically mold making?
So what we found is you have to start, the earlier the better. So by the time somebody has selected a high school, they've already selected which pathway they're going to go. Okay. So I think there's two things. The first is that you have to start as early as possible. We need to start celebrating STEM and hands-on learning at an early age. But more importantly, we need to start educating parents, teachers, and counselors on the benefits. Because they're children, I'm sorry, but somebody choosing a high school is still a child. And so they are being drastically influenced. So if your influential circle is telling you college is what you need because they don't see the value, then that's the direction that you're going to be pushed. Whereas if our teachers, our counselors, our parents know that you can have an awesome career without any student debt, you can be 21 years old and owning a home and things like that, and manufacturing is not dirty and things like that, then I think we're going to have a better success rate, because we can push STEM as much as we want, but we need the parents and counselors to support us.
I agree. I always say it's just this gigantic marketing problem, like a mainstream marketing problem. I don't know who you'd have to have in the mainstream to really take notice. I always think of like the Mike Rose of the world, but they get it. Like who out there can, it's huge. And it's funny how we're talking 2021 and it's still that same challenge, even though every shop I go into for the most part is high technology, is clean. Some are more advanced than others, but they all are not what anybody, even my nieces and nephews, it's not what they would think. And I can't believe we're still talking that way about it. It's sad, really sad.
Yeah.
All right. So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, ideally, I see myself leading from a higher role and having a really strong, capable team underneath me that can execute. That is my number one goal, is to grow with people alongside me who are going to help us go to the next level. Because I think that the company in order to grow, has to have a certain number of individuals who aren't in the business constantly, and who are continuing to see the vision, make investments, things like that. And that's where I personally hope to be. But in order to get there, I'm going to have to bring a bunch of people up with me. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then you grow, everybody grows. That's good. Right?
Well, that's my hope.
Exactly. All right. Last but not least, if I was asking you to sell a middle schooler on mold manufacturing, a career, what would be your sales pitch to that kid?
Two things. The first is that you can be anything you want to be in mold manufacturing. You can create, you can design things, you can work with your hands and actually manufacture things, you can sell things, you can market things, you can package things, you can do absolutely almost any career that there is in the world exists in mold manufacturing, and not every industry can offer that. So no matter where you go or where your path changes, that's one industry that allows you to do, I mean, you can be doing marketing, PR, accounting, you can be operating machines, you can be shipping and receiving, you can be designing, all within the same industry. So you really have that opportunity and that leverage to move. So like when high schoolers come in, you're not stuck just because you're on the floor. That doesn't have to be your career. It can go anywhere within a company. But it's a really good way to get your foot in the door, get educated at a low investment with tons of reward.
Well said. Well said. And that's what I've been trying to preach too, is nothing against like a machine operator or even a programmer, but they're the two things that people always say. And there's so many more options that might fall more in line with your skill set or your personality. So thank you for backing me up on my thinking with that. So thank you. So Hillary, I want to say congratulations again, and thank you for your time. I think it's well deserved. I'm sure we'll be in touch. There's plenty of stories to tell and to share about you and the company. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
And for everyone out there, for everything mold making, visit moldmakingtechnology.com. Stay safe and healthy, but most importantly, stay informed and stay inspired.